90 minutes total per item. The first 1 through 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 through 25 have 2 minutes, and if time remains, the next 26 plus participants in the queue have 1 minute to speak. For our hard of hearing residents present, we have wireless headsets available in the back of the council chambers through our AV team. The City Council regular meeting is called to order. There are 10 council members in attendance, and a quorum of the council is present. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Ute, and other Native peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this land for generations and continue to maintain deep cultural and spiritual ties to it. As the City and County of Broomfield, we recognize the responsibility to honor this legacy and the enduring presence of Native communities. May this acknowledgement inspire action that fosters greater understanding, truth, and respect for Indigenous peoples. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. If council members are given an opportunity to speak for a second time, they should limit their comments to 2 minutes. And we'll plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We will begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments regarding this evening's agenda? Are there any objections to this agenda being approved? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Under petitions and communications this evening is a proclamation declaring March as Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Month, or IDD. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation please come up to the podium? And I will now summarize the proclamation. The City and County of Broomfield reaffirms its commitment to celebrating, protecting, and advancing the human, civil, and legal rights of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The proclamation recognizes that disabilities are a natural part of the human experience and that people with IDD have inherent values, strengths, and abilities and deserve dignity, respect, and equality under the law. It emphasizes the importance of collaboration, education, employment, housing, and community-based services in supporting self-determination and full community participation. The city acknowledges systemic barriers that limit equitable opportunities and commits to advancing inclusive policies, ADA accommodations, and effective communication supports. Broomfield supports the rights of individuals with IDD to make person-centered decisions, advocate for themselves, and live independent and meaningful lives within our community. Therefore, as mayor, I hereby declare and proclaim March 2026 as Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Thank you. I'd like to invite our representatives to provide remarks.
Good evening, Castriata, council members, staff. My oldest son, Joshua. Joshua was diagnosed with multiple disabilities when he was 6 months old and is nonverbal. He requires 24/7 care and supervision. This is my nephew, Richard. These amazing young men are only 2 of our friends in the community, along with Randy and Gabby, who are behind me, that you are honoring tonight with this proclamation. This meaningful recognition affirms the value, dignity, and contributions of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in our community. It also helps shine a light on the importance of inclusion, opportunity, and support for people of all abilities. For more than 2 decades, Friends has worked alongside individuals with IDD to create opportunities for connection, independence, and meaningful participation in community life. The City and County of Broomfield has been there supporting us every step of the way. Your proclamation helps amplify this work and sends a powerful message that Broomfield is a community where everyone belongs. We are grateful for the City Council's leadership in recognizing the importance of awareness, understanding, and inclusion. Your support helps foster a community where individuals with IDD are not only seen and supported, but celebrated. As Joshua's mom, the founder and CEO of Friends of Broomfield, and on behalf of all the individuals and families that we serve and the partners that are doing this work with us, we extend our sincere gratitude to the Broomfield City Council for issuing a proclamation recognizing Intellectual and Disability Awareness Month this March. Thank you for taking the stand with us and for making our community stronger every day.
Hello, let's see. Hello, Mayor and Broomfield City Council. My name is Richard and I live in Broomfield. I am part of Friends of Broomfield programs. I want to say thank you for making a proclamation and intellectual and developmental disabilities awareness month. It makes me happy that you see people like me and care about us. People with disabilities can do many great things. We like having jobs, friends, volunteering, and being part of our community. I hope to someday move into the Grove. Friends helps me learn new things and spend time with my friends and feel proud of who I am. My disability is my superpower. Because you support programs like Friends, I get to be part of Broomfield and do things I enjoy. Thank you for helping people understand that everyone is important and everyone belongs. Thank you for supporting people with disabilities like me.
We also allow public comments if anyone else would like to comment on this item. Now would be the time. Please make your way up to the podium. No pressure. I'd like to go to council. Does council have any questions or comments for our guests? Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Just Gina, I remember when we first started a lot of these conversations at Discovery Christian Church, actually. And I think it was in 2019 when you all were advocating for housing. And when anytime anyone says, who are the leaders in, advocating for housing, or most recently too, I hear a lot of people are going to the RTD meetings as well for transportation. We hear about this in the community. And I just want to say that not only does this population belong and thrive, they are leaders in the community. So, Josh, Richard, and of course, Gina and Gabby, you guys have all been huge advocates and tonight for speaking out. You guys are a leader in the community and not just a part of the community. And we are just so thankful that we get to celebrate you this month.
Gabby, did you want to say anything tonight? We're going to take a picture then. Okay, well, I will present the proclamation and council, would you please join me in front of the dais? We'll take a group picture. I'll give them a minute to make their way out. I don't think y'all want to stay for the whole thing. All right, next we're moving into the council member report section of our agenda. Does any member of the council have any reports or updates this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
On Thursday morning, March 5th, Teen Council and Council members Delgadillo, Peterson, Ward, and I attended the conversation at the Capitol with Senator Lindstedt and Representative Nguyen. We'd like to thank the staff for arranging that and to our representatives for taking time to speak with us about issues that are pertinent to Broomfield. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other council member reports or updates this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll now continue with public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than the items already listed elsewhere on the agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Please make your way to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council and staff. This is really more of a request. I'm not sure you'd be able to answer much of this tonight, but I see a lot of concern about the Broomfield Towns Center now at the square. It seems like things have kind of went topsy-turvy all of a sudden. So I hope there's a plan to really keep people abreast of what's going on, because it appears that things are, if this developer falls through, what's going to be the next step? If I would assume that if it stretches out another 18 months, who's going to pay? Because every time something stretches out, I've certainly noticed that the cost goes up considerably. So very concerned about that, and just what's going on. So just please keep everybody aware of what's going on. A lot of my neighbors are asking me what's going on, and so it was nice to be able to go to the Broomfield page and see that. But there's a lot of people that are very interested in this project over the next few weeks, especially.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Carruthers.
Thank you.
Roxy Julia Luckmore. I just have a statement to make because I really don't know who to call to contact about this. The American flag at the Brunner House is torn, tattered. I know it gets plenty of wind there, but it's disgusting. As a city and county and as an American citizen, if you don't have the money or you don't have the skill to keep it in shape, or can explain to me why it is in such bad shape and then fix it, then I will pay to have it done. So just let me know. You know how to reach me.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, Ms. Jewell.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Sam Taylor. I come to you if you see this logo, which you probably can't. It says Broomfield 2026 with an exclamation point. As you are well aware, and some people in the audience may not be, that this year is the 65th anniversary of Broomfield becoming a city and 25th anniversary of Broomfield becoming a city and a county, as well as the United States' 250th birthday and Colorado's 150th birthday. The Broomfield Historical Society, which I have the honor of being the president, is doing multiple events. We're doing trivia nights with Colorado and Broomfield-based history. The next one is April 7th at IHOP IPA from 7 to 9 p.m. You're all invited to form teams and come up there. I won't tell you the questions ahead of time. You're welcome to guess them, but of course you will know them all because that's what you do. And we're having many other events like reenactments. We'll be talking a lot of Broomfield history, how we started, why the library is named the Mamie Dowd Eisenhower Library. May even tell some people who are new to Broomfield where the George DeCero building got its name. All really good stories. I urge you to go to the Broomfield Historical Society's website, look at our calendar. It'll take you right to the 2026 calendar and you can see all the events. And we're always looking for more volunteers because there's always so much to be done. Broomfield has been a great partner with David Allison from the Depot Museum. So I really do appreciate everything Broomfield has done to help us celebrate this anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. Anyone else? All right, we'll now continue with the report section of the agenda. City Manager Huffman, do you have a report this evening?
I do not. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Attorney Rogers?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Council's consideration of the consent items is next. The clerk will read all of the consent items by title, and there'll be one opportunity for public comments and council questions and comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 6A through 6F by title?
6A, approval of minutes for the regular council meeting of February 24th, 2026. 6B, proposed resolution number 2026-30, approving an access and utility easement for an underground communications line and related infrastructure. Tract L, Willow Park, filing number 1. 6C, proposed resolution number 2026-31, approving the construction agreement with Morton Electric, Inc. for the Main Street and Miramonte Boulevard traffic signal project. 6D, proposed resolution number 2026-32, approving a master license agreement by and between the City and County of Broomfield and Forged Fiber 37 LLC. 6E, proposed resolution number 2026-23, delegating authority to the City and County Manager to approve purchase orders with Diamond Contracting Corporation for the completion of an emergency 30-inch water transmission line repair on Aspen Street. 6F, proposed ordinance number 2284, updating the Broomfield Municipal Code general penalty provision, and proposed ordinance number 2299, updating the Broomfield Municipal Code provisions for shoplifting, theft, and defraud by check to align penalties with Colorado state law based on dollar amounts. First reading.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with public comments on these items. If any residents are using the call-in service, they should indicate their desire to speak by pressing *9 to raise their hand. We'll start with in-person comments. Seeing none, any online? We'll go to council questions and comments next. Does any member of council have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
On behalf of Ward 3 residents who live near Broomfield High School, I just wanted to thank staff for moving forward the traffic signal that will be located at Main Street and Miramonte Boulevard to alleviate the traffic congestion near Broomfield High School. And just a reminder for other Ward 3 residents that because of the major leak that's being repaired on Aspen Street, the Aspen Street will be closed from March 11th to March 30th. And thank you, staff, for putting signs up to warn everyone as they approach Aspen Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? All right, seeing none, is there a motion by council that consent items 6A through 6F be approved? Councilmember Ward?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Delgadillo?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, then council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote. This looks different to me. But it looks good. And then that should be up on the screen. It passes unanimously, 10-0. Thank you all very much. Congratulations. Welcome to Broomfield. Moving on. Next, under action items, is the public hearing and council's consideration on second reading of a proposed ordinance related to water use and drought restrictions. I'll now declare the public hearing open. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council and community. Making his way down to the podium is Mark Laurie. It's a water evening tonight. So our water crew is going to be here from beginning to end, actually.
Fun.
Mr. Laurie.
Thank you, Manager Hoffman. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. Mark Laurie, Deputy Director of Water Utilities. I'm going to give a brief overview of the ordinance before you to update our water use and drought restrictions that you heard about on January 27th at first reading. Go over some of the proposed changes we have to those rules, and then talk a little bit about communications and implementation if you pass the ordinance tonight. Next slide, please. So start with where we are today. Chapter 1336 of Broomfield Municipal Code was updated by council in June of 2024. And this established new turf irrigation requirements for periods of non-drought. So when we're not in a drought condition 1, 2, or 3, including when we're in a drought watch as we are today. Those rules include restricting turf irrigation to 3 days a week with even and odd addresses assigned to specific days of the week. No turf irrigation between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So we want people to irrigate during the evening or overnight hours or early morning. We restricted the reuse irrigation season or the reclaimed water irrigation season to make sure that we could maintain the capacity of that system. So no irrigation on that system after November 30th or before April 1st. And then importantly, trees, we clarify this regularly, that trees, shrubs, and gardens can be watered anytime if they're watered by hand or efficient irrigation systems like drip lines. For any violations of these rules, the first 2 violations are warnings. So we send a notice of violation, that's a letter explaining the requirements, the violation that was observed. And then fines begin with the 3rd violation, and they go from $50 to $1,000 per violation. So our first season of communicating and enforcing all these was in 2025. We got a lot of feedback from residents, HOAs, large property owners about some challenges that these rules create for them. So we're proposing some changes to accommodate some of that feedback. Next slide, please. So quick summary of the changes that we're proposing to make. One is we want to establish separate requirements for irrigation of large parcels. So we did learn from a number of property managers that being able to run all of their irrigation zones between 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. can be challenging for very large properties. So this would create an exception. They have to register with the Department of Water Utilities, and then we will ask for certain documentation, and that will enable them to water more than 3 times a week. We want to require repair of damaged irrigation systems that's causing water waste within 10 business days to avoid further violations or fines. We're going to create a new exception for new seed or sod to be watered as needed for up to 21 days during non-drought times. That exception already exists for drought condition 1. And it was an oversight on our part when we formulated the ordinance 2 years ago. We didn't include it for non-drought time, so we're adding that now. We're proposing to extend the reuse irrigation season. I mentioned that it was from April 1st to November 30th. We want to back that start date up to March 1st. That will help our parks and some of the HOAs be able to irrigate some of their recreational areas when recreation starts to pick up during March. So that will accommodate that requirement. Throughout the ordinance, we're clarifying that the Department of Water Utilities is the responsible department. And then we're also adding an exception for winter watering. So this has become particularly relevant this winter. Lots of people are wanting to water their grass and or their trees and shrubs. Again, you can water trees and shrubs anytime. We have gotten feedback that some people would like to be able to fire up their sprinkler systems during this dry winter, and they want to do it on a warm Saturday or Sunday when they can monitor it and then blow it out again and have it ready for the next freeze. So we want to add that exception. So if passed by council tonight, we propose that these changes be effective in 7 days, so that way they're in effect for the start of this irrigation season, which is probably starting as we speak. Next slide, please. So I did want to talk a little bit about our plans for communication and implementation of these new rules if the ordinance is passed by City Council tonight. So we work every year with our communications department very closely to plan out very detailed communications around water efficiency. And so that details they pre-write all of the messages, develop graphics in advance, and schedules out when we're going to put things out in publications via social media, via newsletters up on our website. This year, we've integrated into that communications plan drought for obvious reasons. So we had plans to communicate out the drought watch that started on February 9th. If we go to drought condition 1 later this year, we've got plans about how we're going to communicate that. And so we've folded into all of that, if this ordinance passes, communicating out these new exceptions and new requirements so that people can become aware of them. So we have communications ready to go, for example, for the new exception for new seed and sod and the ability to water for 21 days if you plant new seed and sod. We'll change that messaging as needed if Broomfield does elevate to a drought condition 1, which is slated for your meeting on May 12th. And then for the exception for large parcels, while we do want to accommodate some of these large properties and allow them to water in a way that's accommodates and allows their grass to be healthy, we do still want to make sure they're being as efficient as possible. So we will require that they show either results of a past irrigation audit, which is free through our rebate programs, or a commitment to sign up for an irrigation audit if they haven't had one within 3 years. And then also provide documentation of their irrigation system settings so that we can verify they're not running any individual zone more than 3 times a week. So that on a per zone basis, they're still complying with the 3 times a week. And then we'll track these exceptions, both the new sod and seed and the large parcel exceptions in a spreadsheet tracking tool. So that way we know that those properties aren't violating if we do get complaints from the community. Next slide, please. Wanted to give a quick example of some of the communications. This is just one tiny little sample of a bunch of different things that our communications colleagues have developed. This is an advertisement that I think it already ran in the Broomfield Enterprise just a week or 2 ago about the drought watch that went into effect on February 9th. And so it communicates out to our community some of the recommendations and things they can do to be more efficient with water, including some of the requirements as irrigation season, approaches. And of course, we always advertise and point people back to our broomfield.org/savewater website where there's a lot more detail and information. Next slide, please. So ordinance 2294, if council desires to proceed with the proposed changes to chapter 1336 of Broomfield Municipal Code, the recommended action is to approve ordinance number 2294. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. Well, first, we'll proceed with public comments. If any residents are using the call-in service, press *9 to raise your hand. We'll start with in-person comments. If anyone would like to be heard on this item, please make your way to the podium. Okay.
My wife said I forgot to introduce myself last time. So
Oh,
Bill Crothers from Northmore.
I didn't even catch it because I know you.
I know
Thank
you would have said something, I'm sure. But I just had a question on the presentation that you just had. You said something about HOAs. There's some exemptions possible for HOAs? Do you have a criteria for what they can do for that exemption?
Yeah, do you want to answer that?
Yes, please. Come on up to the mic.
So yeah, thank you for that question. So if the ordinance passes tonight, one of the exceptions that will be included is, so currently for residents and small properties, there's a requirement that you water no more than 3 times per week. And what we've heard is from some large properties, I think including some large areas within HOAs, that it can be hard to run all the zones between 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. the next morning, which is the requirement. So they would like the opportunity or the ability to water more than 3 times a week, more than those assigned 3 days. So this exception will allow them to do that as long as they register with the Department of Water Utilities and provide some additional documentation. And then you'd be able to water as needed, as long as you're not, as long as you're watering efficiently and still only watering any zone 3 times a week.
Okay. I just wanted some clarification. on
No,
Thank you.
that makes sense because communities like the Broadlands are in 3 wards. Yeah, that's a lot of land to cover.
Yep.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you for that answer.
And just
Oh, go
my
ahead.
last thing
Sure.
also. I went to a meeting on Saturday and found out that Broomfield County is the second smallest county in the United States.
Wow. What's
Did you know
first?
that?
No.
There's only one county in Hawaii that is smaller than Broomfield. So
Interesting. Thank
interesting
you for
fact.
that.
So later, if somebody, Roxy Julia Lockmore, sorry. If somebody can later contact me or tell me who I need to contact for when the city has broken sprinkler heads, I know they have sensors and stuff, but sometimes I see stuff spray for more than a couple of nights, and that shouldn't be happening with our new fancy watering system that we paid big bucks to have put in. And the other thing is do the corporations that have lawns and stuff, when they overwater and it's running down the street, do they get fined, or are they not part of this watering thing and only the residents with their homes and stuff have to be penalized if something happens? I see it all the time, so that's why I want to know why they're allowed to do it. And it's wasting our water because most of their water is not non-treatable water. It's all treated water from our water system. So if we get penalized, I want to know why they don't. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get you answers to both of those, hopefully.
Yeah, I can provide answers to both. So if you see any kind of water waste going on, whether it's on a city park, broken sprinklers, over irrigation, on our website, broomfield.org/savewater, if you scroll to the bottom, there's a button, and that button will take you to an online form where you can report water waste. So you can use that for any sort of water waste or any suspected violations of our watering rules to report that. And then to the question about private, corporate, company, commercial properties, yeah, they're subjected to the same requirements and rules. So if they are overwatering or if they have leaks in their system that are resulting in water waste, we want to know about it. And we have mechanisms that will reach out to them and issue violations if we do think it's a violation. So they're subjected to the same exact rules that everybody else is.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment on this item?
Thank you for your time. My name is Laura Pionki. I'm in Ward 5, Westlake. I'm currently fighting Japanese beetles. I'm not sure if you're aware what they are, but they're a bane for my roses and plenty of my other plants. Part of the treatment I'm using is nematodes, and I need to keep my lawn wet for like 2 weeks straight. Is there any kind of penalty when I'm trying to rehab my my ecosystem and my lawn for having to keep it in a treatment such as that?
That's a good question. Maybe we'll have some guidance on that.
I don't have a firm answer for that one. That's what I actually do use nematodes for the same kinds of things. And I didn't know I needed to keep my lawn wet. So maybe I've just learned something. If you could, if you I'm saying I'm probably ignorant of it because my wife actually is the expert gardener. If you could send us an email at conservation@broomfield.org, and I can talk with you after if you don't get a chance to write that down, and just let us know your question.
The watering restrictions are not in place right now. We're under a drought watch. So we're not in a drought declaration as of now. So I don't know if anybody's irrigating, it's hot enough, but the irrigation guidelines restrictions are not in place at this moment.
The normal time restrictions are, so 3 days a week, no more than 3 days a week and during the hours. And if the ordinance passes tonight, there'll be that winter exception, but yeah, there aren't any further restrictions than the 3 times a week. But yeah, if you could send us an email at that email address, conservation@broomfield.org, and we'll try to get you an answer.
Excellent.
Conservation, I'll talk to you afterwards. How's that?
Okay.
Make it easier.
For the public.
Okay, conservation, CONSER, spelling bee, VATION @broomfield.org.
All right, we'll continue. Or any other public comments? Questions from council are next. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion, and the time to introduce amendments and state positions for or against this item is later. Are there any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
With the permit that's given for a registration for new sod, is there an intention for that to only be permitted like once per growing season for that 21 days? And if so, will there be any communication that goes out with the messaging for, for that?
I think I hadn't thought about whether people would be planting new seed or turf multiple times in a season. I think we could grant the exception as many times as a household needs. We would hope that there wouldn't be abuse of it. But if they're planting different parts of their yard at different times, I think we could do the exception at different times. And we can include that in some of the communication so it's clear that if folks are approaching it that way, they can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Next is council's consideration of proposed ordinance number 2294. Will the clerk please read the proposed ordinance by title?
Ordinance number 2294, amending certain sections of Chapter 13-36 of the Broomfield Municipal Code, water use and drought restrictions.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on second and final reading and order published by title? Councilmember Delgadillo?
Who moved?
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Ward?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing no further discussion, we'll move forward to the vote on ordinance number 2294. Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote, and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for the good questions and answers. Next, under action items, is the public hearing for an application for a digital monument sign to be located on the southern portion of 16801 Galapagos Place within Palisade Park filing number 1. Because one of these items is in the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority's consideration of proposed resolution 2025-52-UR, we will convene a meeting of borough. The meeting of the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority is called to order to consider agenda item 7C concurrently. I'll note that all members of the authority are present. Is Borough Member Goldstein online? Except for Authority Member Goldstein and Authority Member Law Evans. I'll now declare the public hearing open. We'll follow the city's standard public hearing procedures. First, staff will present a summary of the proposal. Next, we'll have the applicant's presentation. Then we'll ask for public comments and final comments from the applicant. And finally, questions from council. Following council questions, I'll close the hearing. Following the hearing will be council's discussion, consideration, and vote on the application based on the applicable criteria stated in the code. Council and borough have a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. And James is working on the Wi-Fi. Council, I know some of you're struggling with it right now, so he is working on that. And if you would be kind enough to go back one presentation, James, to the to 6. Alex Bradshaw is going to walk us through this item as soon as your presentation pops up. Unless you want to do the budget, Mr. Bradshaw.
I'd rather not just wing it this evening. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Alex Bradshaw, Senior Planner, and the project before you this evening is for a new freestanding digital monument sign. The proposed modification is for an alteration of the design to a previously approved multi-panel monument sign to a fully digital sign. The sign would be located within the Palisade Park filing number 1, replat E-Lot 2, specifically in the southern portion of 16801 West Galapagos Place. Next slide, please. Zoning for this parcel is Plan Unit Development, otherwise known as PUD, and the property is located within the Palisade Park PUD area. The PUD plan allows for a mixed-use commercial on the subject property, and signage is typically associated within the development as an accessory use. The proposed sign is consistent with the underlying zoning. Palisade Park filing number 1, Site Development Plan and Urban Renewal Site Plan Amendment, which was approved in 2013, included deviations from the Broomfield Municipal Code to allow for the proposed monument sign to exceed the maximum permitted sign height and to allow the subject sign to encroach into the required setback from the property line so long as it remained outside the site distance area. Next slide. Here I've outlined brief history of the Palisade Park Monument sign as it's gone through a few different modifications and amendments over the years. In 2007, the Palisade Park filing number 1 site development plan and urban renewal site plan approved the design of a multi-tenant freestanding monument sign. In 2013, an amendment to that plan approved the revised design for a subject monument sign to allow for an increase in height and total signage area, and to allow for the sign to encroach into the required setback, as I stated before, so long as it remains outside of the site distance area. In 2023, an administrative modification approved a new location for the monument sign. The new location was generally outlined to be approximately 300 feet west of the intersection of Galapago Place and Colorado 7. The proposal before you this evening is a text amendment to the prior approved plan amendment, further revising the custom sign design by increasing the height by 2 feet and the overall total signage area by 47 square feet. Next slide. So this slide depicts the, appears we might be missing a slide here, but we do have, and I'll try and get that pulled up for you during our deliberations, an image of the previously approved multi-tenant monument sign, which approved at 25 feet tall with 288 square feet of total signage area, which again is 47 square feet less than what's being proposed this evening. It's also noted that the sign panels may be combined on the plan that they can accommodate larger anchor tenants. On this slide, we have the, it looks like we have the sign design. It was 27-foot tall monument sign. It's in a V shape. There's digital screens on each outward facing side of the V shape. The sign includes a 148 square foot digital sign and a 19.5 square foot Palisade Park logo at the top of the sign. And this is on both sides of that V shape. The proposed sign again would have a total of 335 square feet and 47 square feet larger than the previously approved sign. Next slide. Just to continue the presentation here, staff has not identified any key issues with the proposed monument sign amendment. The initial application for an administrative approval was not approved by the city manager and was instead referred to the Land Use Review Commission to conduct a formal hearing. The Land Use Review Commission reviewed the application on February 9th of 2026 and approved the application by unanimous vote. Following approval by the Land Use Review Commission, this application was called up for further review and consideration by the City Council. Next slide. The next slide is just more words, so I will continue. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting in January of 2026. There were no members of the public present at the neighborhood meeting, and no comments or concerns were submitted from the public regarding the proposed development. The required public notices had been met for this hearing, including a mailing sent at least 10 days in advance of tonight's public hearing, along with surrounding property owners within 1,000 feet of the subject property. Last slide. In summary, staff did not identify any key issues for the proposal. The zoning for the subject property permits the proposed monument sign. This slide also details standards for review regarding the urban renewal site plans, site development plans, and site development plan modifications. Next slide, and that concludes the staff report, and the applicant is in attendance this evening and is available to answer any questions as well.
Thank you very much. Next is the applicant presentation. Please identify yourself for the record before beginning your presentation this evening.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor, City Council, Manager's Office, and Attorney's Office. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Alex, thanks for the presentation. I've got a few notes. So tonight's about a sign, right? I think it's about an important sign. We, being Kivamra LLC, the Metro District, Urban Frontier, and Palisade Park, have invested over $6 million in what I would term the premier amenity in the northeast market of Broomfield. Sorry, I'm halfway between glasses and not glasses. We are trying to do everything we can to have the amphitheater succeed. This sign is a significant step towards that success. And I know, as Alex mentioned, we went through land use review. We had our neighborhood meeting. There was either no attendees at the neighborhood meeting or support from land use review. I can tell you that of our performances last year, speaking to neighbors, they asked why there wasn't a sign. Why isn't there anything advertising the sign? We've done quite a bit with the owners associations that were willing to do so. And we've done some things in the Broomfield newspaper and periodicals. And I know that Broomfield's trying to get the word out as well. I guess on one hand, I was a little surprised that the sign got called up. The sign's been approved previously, obviously in a slightly different configuration. The original sign was about a little over 60 square feet on each side of LED, plus some call them banners. That was done a long time ago. The market's changed. We didn't know then that we would actually have the amphitheater. We wanted one, but of course it came to fruition. And with that comes the importance of making sure that the Broomfield community at large knows that not only is there an amphitheater there, but events that are going to be occurring. On February 17th, Alex had emailed us that there was an inquiry from council, and it was whether or not the Colorado Department of Transportation had been notified about this sign. And yes, we had, and that's how we responded. About a week later, we received another one, and it was, does this sign comply with both Broomfield code and Colorado Department of Transportation code? Bless you. And advertising. And I also responded right away that CDOT has looked at this. It is in compliance with their codes. It is also in compliance with Broomfield's codes. So some of you may or may not be aware that you do have codes that address LED signs, and they're already in place. And our submittal adheres to your codes and your criteria. Last night, I received an email with a question of whether or not we could have a traffic engineer here. And unfortunately, it was not enough notice. So we couldn't have a traffic engineer here. Based on the questions that were asked, though, we did submit a letter from the Colorado Department of Transportation. I hope that's in your packet, that says they have no problem with the sign and it's in adherence, and as long as it goes by their code, which it does, that everything is fine. I also submitted a report that was done by the Texas Department of Transportation. There aren't a lot of these that have gone into depth on LED signs, but Texas actually did that. I think in part because there are a lot of places in Texas that don't have zoning and people put things up anywhere they want. So they did look at it, and I sent you that study. And there was also a summary of the study, and what the summary said was there's no definitive difference between accidents or safety. They did years-long study and showed that there were a similar amount of traffic accidents with or without LED signs. This particular sign it's expensive. That should not be a reason why you approve or disapprove, but I wanted you to know that we're making an additional investment in the community with this particular sign because we want to see the success of the amphitheater. I guess the last, a couple of things. So CDOT has standards for when they come up with their codes for signage. And for digital signs, they are based on the federal highway guidelines. The sign will adhere to all of CDOT's and Fed and Broomfield regulations. There are regulations that Broomfield has, and as it pertains to business and frequency of the message change. Additionally, the question came up about, would it be bright? Would it be flashing? Would it distract a driver? First of all, these signs and the new technology, they operate with auto dimming capabilities that adjust the ambient light levels. When it's dark at night, they run at about 10% of capacity. And during the middle of the day when it is bright, they are at a brighter light so that it can actually be seen. Let's see. The City of Broomfield Reference Municipal Code chapter is 17-44. And numbers 1 through 4 in particular speak to what the code is and what the guidelines are for LED signs in the city and the county. And this submittal does adhere to all of those. We have asked for a little taller sign. We've also asked for a little larger digital sign. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, talk about what we can do to see this move forward and have a successful summer concert season. And I'm happy to, I know people brought up advertising, and I'm happy to talk to you specifically about what your questions and concerns are and what we can or can't do based on your regs and CDOT's regs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baum. First, we'll go to public comments. If anyone would like to be heard on this item, please make your way to the podium. State your name and neighborhood for the record. And limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Roxy Julia Lackamore. Once again, we're having signs put up, and this is going to be a beautiful sign. I have no problem with that, but no place on it does say Broomfield. I know across the street, they ended up putting it onto their signs, which appeased me. I don't have a problem with that, but this is City and County of Broomfield. Palisade Park is a subdivision of the city. I mean, it's its own little community right now. But I would like to see Broomfield or Broomfield, Colorado be put onto it. And it could be down maybe below where it says live music coming soon. It doesn't have to be part of their LED if they could just have it. And it doesn't have to be as tall, because Palisade Park is 1 foot tall according to this map here that I got. It could even be 6 inches or whatever, but as long as it's on the sign and it's visible, and if it was down there, it at least been people walk by or going by, they can at least see that this is Broomfield. And we need to be recognized as Broomfield. And Palisade Park is part of Broomfield, and we're proud of it. So they should be proud to put our name on their sign. Other groups have done it. I don't see why they can't do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard? We'll go to council questions unless you wanted to respond to that, Mr. Baum.
I'm happy to. So with the LED, we've already had conversations with the city about the amphitheater in particular use and whether the city would be able to host some events. So we always anticipated, and I apologize that I didn't put it on the LED. Where I had to put a picture up for reference, but I expect that whether it's Broomfield events or different things are going to be, we're going to work together to make sure that we're promoting the city, which we've always done, whether it be at Interlochen or with Children's Hospital or with any of the other projects that we work on. We are proud to be in Broomfield, and we've been in Broomfield for 35-ish years, quite some time.
Thank you.
For your comment.
We're going to move on to council questions and borough questions next. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion. The time to introduce conditions for approval and state positions for or against this item is later. Are there any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Lim?
Yes, does staff have a slide with what was approved in 2013? Okay, so if the applicant could address more directly. He alluded to it a little bit. Why did the digital display place need to increase from 62 square feet at the top of the 2013 approval to 148 square feet in the digital area in the new approval? What you're asking us to approve.
So my oldest son is 26, and 13 years ago, he was 13, and he's a very much different person that he is today than he was 13 years ago. And what I've learned is that when we did this original PUD, I think back in 2001 or 2 and 3, we mentioned that it was a living and breathing document, right? A PUD doesn't just come in and you develop a large project over time. It changes and it gets updated. And in 2013, we didn't have an amphitheater planned. We did not have the same project we had. We had Children's Hospital under construction with a 50,000 foot building that we all had hoped would grow into the hospital that it's become. That's obviously driving other hospitals and healthcare to the much needed area. So when this sign was designed, retailers look and say, well, this is how we did signs, we did panels, and the LED seemed okay. So now, not only have we learned that, that small panel, if you think of people driving, if they have to squint to read something, I would argue that that might be more dangerous than a smaller sign that they don't have to squint to see. But many signs, and we, I think, sent over examples of some. When I was driving up here on I-25 from downtown Denver, I passed 5 of them on the highway, all LED and none with bands anymore. So as 13 years went by and it evolved and we looked at the amphitheater, we reached out to the Levitt Pavilion, we've reached out to others and said, what Fiddler's Green, what's successful for you? What's important? So we worked with AdLight, our signage company, on what they see both locally and in other places to have a sign that actually represents what we're doing. So that was the reason for the change.
Okay. I understand that as a local government, we cannot regulate what you put on the sign. I understand that. You have represented to us this evening that the only thing you're going to put on this digital sign is information related to the amphitheater. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe that I represented that. I said that the sign is important to the amphitheater. And I also represented that we have to go by both Broomfield and CDOT's code. And what those codes allow, and in particular CDOT and the highway, is that we can, any advertising, we can't do off-premises advertising. So what that means is it has to be someone that's a tenant of Palisade Park or what was the word? An affiliated part of that. So whether it's Palisade Park or Palisade North, that could go on it, but we couldn't, as an example, advertise tobacco or T-shirts, but a business that's there could. So we went and designed this in particular for the amphitheater, but we would have the ability, Children's Hospital as an example. If they had a fundraiser or something going on, they could approach us and they could advertise that they have something going on. If I have another one that I don't know that we've even submitted yet, so I can't talk about it, but a restaurant, we have a restaurant going through and they will have a small monument sign that's typical in Broomfield. If they wanted to put something up, then they would be allowed to per Broomfield's code and the Colorado Department of Transportation code.
When this was shown to council as a possible call-up possibility, the slide that was shown that was presented to LERC on the current proposal showed a live concert that looked like it was representing a video of a live concert on that digital sign. Is that what you intend to put in that, on that digital sign?
So code for both CDOT and the city is still images that have to be on the screen for a certain amount of time before they switch, right? Video is not allowed today. Might the city in the future allow something like that? That's your prerogative. So we would go by the guidelines, which mean it would be still. So that was, if I wanted to give you a great presentation, I might have shown you a live video. It was a photograph from a concert that occurred last year that we thought would be nice to show because it was the amphitheater. I guess it was a poor choice of photos for me. And that would be the reason that if you go back to the presentation that Alex did, we sent an updated one that says Palisade Park Amphitheater. It was not our intention to expect that you were going to allow video because it was a photograph of an event. So I apologize.
Do you intend for this sign to be used by all of the businesses that are within the Palisade Park PUD, or I don't know, if that's the right term or not? But
Project.
project, yes.
I don't know. I suspect that some will want to be on it. It is possible that the restaurant chooses to. I'm pretty sure that Children's would like to take advantage of the ability to have the sign. I know with 100% certainty, because we're operating it, that the amphitheater is going to be primary. I know that Broomfield has said that they would like an opportunity to showcase things that might be happening in Broomfield. Trying to think what we're working on our hotels. We had already had a concept hearing. We'll be submitting something again soon. I suspect that the hotels will likely participate in that as well.
Do you anticipate that any other businesses within the Palisade Park project would ask for or somehow request their own sign, that we will have multiple signs?
LED?
Yes.
Our PUD doesn't allow it. So what the PUD is allowed is monument signs for individuals. So when you drive down, typically you see them, they're, I don't know, 4 feet high, and they have a brick base or a block base, and then it says what it is. I think we have one there for Wendy's now, and maybe Murphy, the Bank of America, which was recently approved, they'll have theirs. But we only anticipate and were approved for the sign. Additionally, we have challenges. I know you've heard it from us and other developers. Highway 7 on the north side of the road has a significant amount of infrastructure, and there are not a lot of opportunities to do much there. So we're also regulated by the problems we have with availability of land along the road.
Then I have a question for staff. So how does, to the south, does Baseline have the ability to request this kind of monument sign? Do other businesses that are lining Colorado 7 have any agreement that would allow them, give them the pathway to request this kind of sign on Colorado 7? For staff.
Thank you for the question. So they would be able to request it. At this point, they would have to abide by any site development plan that had been approved for that development, or a PUD plan similar to the Palisade Park PUD.
Okay, thank you. And then I had another question for staff. So this, this sign was, subject to administrative review. And somewhere, somehow, that administrative review was declined. And it was referred to LURC instead. So it took a different path than it could have taken. Would staff like to explain why it took a different path?
Mayor, if I could address that question.
Yes, Ms.
thank you.
Bertanzetti.
Mayor Pro Tem, so all applications for an administrative modification that are submitted come through the city manager's office. And at that time, when we review it, we can determine whether it qualifies based on the review findings for the approval, or we can refer it to a public hearing process. In reviewing the sign, this is, as was noted, a very large LED sign. It is different than what we have on for other signage along Colorado 7. And in my opinion, I felt like this deserved to be heard at a public hearing, have an opportunity for public comment and public input, because this was a difference in the sign design that I determined was beyond the scope of an administrative approval.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. This is going to be a question for staff. Can staff remind me and the rest of council on the south side of a baseline where this proposed sign is to go? I know that's part of the baseline development. Is that part of the baseline development's plan to have any housing units in that area? I can't remember from the plethora of conversations we've had about baseline the past couple months.
Thank you, Councilmember Ward. Lynn Merwin, Deputy Director of Community Development for Planning. So the south side, the baseline community, North Park subdivision is zoned for a wide mix of uses similar to the north side. We expect it will be primarily, ideally retail along the corridor proper, but it is possible that there would be residential along that corridor within some proximity, apartment buildings, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then I'm not entirely sure who can answer this question, if anyone can, but I'm going to throw it out there. Given the angle that the signs, at least what was portrayed in the staff memo and I think on the presentation, what seemed to be roughly a 45 degrees from baseline, give or take. Is there any concern that the direction that those signs are pointed, particularly on the western side, would point into the housing units that are scheduled to go into the Center Street kind of area of baseline?
Would you like me to speak to that?
And
'Cause
you
I'd
are
be
more than
happy to
welcome
do
to
it.
take a stab at it.
Good news is there's no parking at the sign. So the reason for the angle was because of the utilities that are there. We were limited, significantly limited with what we could do. I would have liked to, I think I brought this up at the land use review hearing, to have had to sign up, but somebody on LURC had brought up the winds, and the angle actually helps because the wind, instead of hitting the flat. You asked about lighting. First of all, the land that's across the street from this sign was earmarked for medical. It's land that UC Health owns. And it was, although I'm assuming that the developer to the south, if they acquired that land or someone else, they might come back in and ask for residential. But today, across the street from that sign is set up for a hospital. So as far as the angle, it is not as significant as 45 degrees. It was as much as we needed to be able to fit between the utilities that are in the ground. Did that answer your question?
Kind of. It still doesn't get to the question of, based on the angle, is there any concern that the light being kind of front on would shine into homes either in existence or future homes that exist
Sure.
in Baseline's PUD and site development plan?
I do not have concern, but I also don't have concern that any of those car lights that are about 3/4 of a mile away are going to impact the visibility of my sign.
Councilmember Ward, also from really staff needs to speak to those, similar to what Ms. Merwin had just indicated, that we don't know what's going there. So if it is in fact residential, Ms. Merwin, hypothetically.
Yeah, I can't speak to the angle of the sign. I'm just, my brain is not calibrated that way tonight. And thinking of it out there. But what I can say is that our code limits the light to 3-foot candles above ambient light levels, which is really very low. So the intent is it should not create glare off-site according to our code if it's in compliance.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Cohen?
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple of quick questions. I was trying for us to visualize the sign you're proposing. Is there models? I'm thinking of the North Glen Rec Center on I-25 as an LED sign that's fairly new. I don't know if you had other models in the area that might help.
There was one that we submitted. I don't know if it was in your packet. We had
I don't recall that one.
sent that over and I don't remember. Do you remember where that sign was from?
Or there's one by the Cabela's too, I guess.
Yeah, there was one there. This is smaller, but
Smaller than
I
that.
think that may have been one of the
Okay.
examples.
So-
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, from a light standpoint, as was pointed out by Lynn Merwin, I had mentioned earlier, during the evening, it's going to be dimmer, and during the day, when it's bright with sun anyway, it's a little higher, but we will meet all the codes of CDOT and Broomfield.
It's similar to the digital sign, the billboards we say that are 8 seconds and rotate on the interstate or elsewhere.
In other locations, yes, correct.
And for staff, the question, how does this compare to the sign we approved for the Flatiron project on 36?
Who's the subject matter expert on the Flatiron side? Ms. Merwin.
1 degree removed every time. So the Flatiron, the government sign, the joint Flatiron government sign that was approved along US 36 a couple of months ago, is significant. It's definitely larger. I'm trying to remember the size. I believe it was over 400 square feet. It was closer to 600 square feet if memory serves me correctly. And the reason it also would need to meet the digital, all digital sign requirements that Broomfield has. The key difference is it's set back quite significantly from the highway and that it's much bigger. And that it will serve both government and Flatiron Crossing. So I think that's it in a nutshell.
I think the note I could find was 34 feet tall by comparison.
Okay, yeah, yep, yeah, I think you're right. And I think the size was around 600 on both sides collectively.
Thank you. I do think just appreciation for the amphitheater. It is a tremendous asset for Ward 5, and obviously to succeed, it needs butts and seats, as they say. So you need to advertise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Anderson.
Okay, thank you. I have a question about the original approved size. I forget the exact numbers and this increase. And was there a reason that you couldn't work with that original size? It was just because you wanted the extra size for visibility?
Well,
So you'd have to squint.
yeah, so back in 2013, we thought that might be a panel that would do like a single small item. What we learned in 2026 is that it wasn't of ample size for A, technology's changed, and B, the importance of promoting the amphitheater.
Okay, so you couldn't make the overall size work even with a larger digital portion staying within that?
No, that's slightly over 60 square feet, I think, on each side, and now we're proposing, I think it's 147 or 148 on each side.
Well, yeah, which is considerably bigger. Okay, all right, so I have a question on the, you had mentioned this area of all these properties included. Is that the metro district, that the same as the metro district? Is that, how would the properties are included within this development that is related to the sign? That's,
Well, Palisade Park is made up of a number of properties. You have Palisade Park and Palisade Park North and West, and it's made up of a number of residential communities and commercial projects. So I guess I'm not sure of the question, but it's all of Palisade Park.
all of Palisade Park, so, and that's part of the, I guess I was looking at like the who really owns the sign? Is that the metro
Oh.
district that owns it, like that maintains it, or is it?
So the sign is, it's two things. So a portion of the sign is paid for by the Metropolitan District, and a portion of the sign is paid for privately,
Okay.
and privately being us.
Mhm. Okay, so, and that would be determining the content that could go onto the sign. All right. And then you made the comment about the needing this larger sign so that people do not, like drivers don't have to squint to see it. They're also, it's hard to visualize because you're approaching it at an angle, because it's at about a 45-degree angle to the.
Well, it's not at 45
It's not
degrees.
45,
It was enough so that it could fit in between the utilities.
Okay.
But I don't have the exact, I just asked for, but it's a slight angle.
Slight angle. Okay, I was visualizing something different here a moment ago. Okay, so so in order to like, this is like really tough because it's going to be, not up to us what's put on there. So the desire might be, what's shown looks nice. That's a really nice view. And it does provide a good image for Broomfield, but there's nothing to say that content can't change over time to where you would have to squint. So there's like this difficulty in, because it's not permanent. I get the benefit of the digital sign, but
I think in a way, here's the good news. I understand what you're getting at, and you're correct. And I think I may have even heard it from the legal department. Yours. There are rules that dictate what you're allowed to say yes and no to, right? The district would be the same, but the private developer has the right to be able to say yay and nay. So like well, I'm assuming, we don't want pornography up there, right? We don't want, certain things that are, and I think that our interests are aligned so I would tell you that I believe that we, from the private sector, do have the ability to regulate what types of things are up there. And we take, as she mentioned earlier, we take a lot of pride in being in Broomfield. And I think that we have a pretty good idea of what is appropriate and not appropriate.
okay. I think that's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Well, I want to ask just briefly, Mr. Baum, this was our first year with the amphitheater to try to provide some activation and amenities for the growing North Nobro area, correct?
Yes, and I appreciate it. I probably should have touched on that, but this was, again, more the sign than the amphitheater, but I love that you asked the question. The first year I'd say was a great sort of soft opening like a restaurant, Unfortunately, I believe that last summer it rained on every single Thursday, which was when we had the concerts and the farmers markets. Some of you attended. I think some of the people that are here attended, and I'm sure people watching on TV attended. And it was great. I think the largest turnout we had was about 600, so about 50% of occupancy, which I think is pretty good on the first season. The smallest started at 125, but when the hurricane winds and rain came, it quickly shrunk, and we moved the band inside the green room, and about 6 of us enjoyed it. But we look at it as a successful year. I think we had 18 concerts. We had more than that, farmers markets. We also had bands that played during the farmers market. They made a mock-up, sort of one of those like rental trucks, and bands could be inside, so we did that earlier. I know that the residents absolutely loved it.
And that's a new location for the farmer's market, right? You helped move it from the Holy Comforter Church.
Yeah, so theirs was ending, and actually it was the city of Broomfield and the city manager's office that was nice enough to make an introduction, and we were able to work with them. And this year we've got double the vendors signed up that we had last year, and that's a good sign of activity. I was a little disappointed. I thought we had 12 or 14 on some of the Thursdays I was there, and I was told that that was actually pretty good. And by more than doubling this year, it means that they're having success in business, and they're telling others about it. We're also going to have more food trucks there.
But I think it's important with farmers markets to have consistent attendance, and with it being new, do you feel like this sign could really help promote and generate awareness of the farmers market?
Yeah, no question, and thanks for bringing that up. I want to promote the farmers market. We want to promote the amphitheater. We actually want to promote the parks that are up there, and the dog park, and everything that makes Broomfield great, the Northeast market that people aren't really aware of. And we think that this sign can help do that. People are definitely familiar with Southwest and Central. I know one of the people that spoke earlier talked about the development here, and when that's going to get going. So there's obviously interest from other hospitals now, and we know the residential is taking off, and we're seeing the commercial take off. And I think that the farmers market, like the amphitheater, is just another way of promoting that Northeast Broomfield. So thanks, and we look forward to doing that. And I really believe. Oh, the other thing, we already have booked as many concerts for this summer as we have for last summer. So I think we're going to have a fantastic concert season. I'm not going to say publicly right now the bands, but everyone's going to be excited. We've got some really good bands, and hopefully it doesn't rain on Thursdays and Saturdays.
Not going to rain. All right.
We need the rain, but not on those 2 days.
I know, right? Thank you, Mr. Baum. Well, seeing no further questions, the public hearing is closed. First is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-51. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Proposed resolution number 2026-51, approving Palisade Park filing number 1, site development plan, urban renewal site plan amendment to a monument sign.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Henkel.
Most definitely, yes, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Cohen.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I appreciate the amphitheater and the dog park and every other of the amenities that you want to share on Colorado 7. I am concerned that there will be, as staff confirmed, there could be multiple requests for this kind of sign on Colorado 7. I appreciate that staff pulled this sign off the administrative review pathway, recognizing that we don't have other signs of this size on Colorado 7. And I do feel that this size of digital sign could set a precedent on Colorado 7. So I will be voting no on this. I do not feel that a series of signs like this presents a good gateway image on Colorado 7 for Broomfield. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Any other discussion?
Working.
It's not showing up. We're having some tech glitches, y'all, so just bear with us.
Yes,
Councilmember
inter-
Henkel,
Thank you, Mayor.
raise your hand.
Yes, internet is not working either. That's okay. We're
Hold
here
on.
in person. Wanted to thank you so much for coming tonight, Mr. Baum, and really appreciate you taking the initiative on, really developing the economic development in that area. I know a lot of our farmers markets too really do support a lot of our women-owned small businesses as well, and the food trucks that are there, and everyone really loves to come to that place. I appreciate the gateway image actually, and I feel like it's a good, place that we can have, and that, we're gonna have that big hospital there too, and it's gonna be Broomfield North. And so that place is gonna be also like very lit up. So it's just something that we're gonna have off of I-25. I feel like it'll be a good, classy, sense of economic development in our area. And I feel like, it would really let people know what's happening. And I'll be honest, I'm not always so happy about these lit up signs for churches, to be quite honest. But I do think it's appropriate on that street and on that road, particularly with high traffic. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to echo Mayor Pro Tem Lim's concerns that she has. I agree with those same concerns, particularly about the gateway image, and the precedent that this could potentially set, for the rest of Baseline and its development going forward. Additionally, given that the property across the street from this is within the Baseline neighborhood, and while UC Health may currently own it, we did see them come forward with a proposal on your side of Baseline, just to the east, for a new hospital. So whether they continue to own that parcel on the opposite side of this proposed sign is, we'll see. And there is a potential that residential could come into this part of Baseline. And I share concerns, or I have concerns, I apologize, about people being in close proximity to such highly lit signs. And I know that during night, they do auto dim. Greatly appreciate that. We have a sign just like that on US 36, across from the former event center space. But nonetheless, I still have those concerns and the ability and the quality of life for those residents if such development does come forward. So I'll be voting no. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. And I'm struggling with this one because what we see on that image, we're showing like this is an amphitheater. I know that's a good view, but there is we have no control over what is posted on that sign. So we just don't know over time what that image could be. And it may not be a gateway image depending upon what is posted there, and the potential for it could become a very distracting sign. And I also have the concern that once we approve one sign and we give a variance for it to be a much larger sign, that we may see that on the south side as well. And we will start to have way too many lighted signs. So that is the concerns I have. And I'm leaning towards saying no at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I think several points to be made is that this sign conforms with our regulations. I think this also is developing into a major freeway between Brighton and Boulder. Step point 2. Point 3, this is a new entertainment destination and it needs to advertise itself and it needs to make itself known. Point 4, I think, and having had some experience with lighting of a stadium, that modern lighting technology is very precise and they can control to more degrees than ever before glare so that light will not pollute surrounding neighbors at all. And I think this sign, frankly, is classy. It looks nice. I think it'll promote the region, it'll promote the neighborhood. I'm not supposed to think about UC Health, but they won't have a sign on Highway 7 if they get approved. That's what little I know, but I just think this is inappropriate. It meets the guidelines for the most part, and it does not worry me at all. In fact, I think it will help promote the amphitheater, which is a tremendous asset to the community, and I hope will succeed along with the Saturday market. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion from council? Raise your hand if your screen's not working. Seeing no, oh, got Councilmember Peterson. Oh, okay. So no, we're good. Okay, then, there being no further questions, the public hearing is closed. We did that. And now we are on council. So we're going to go ahead and move forward to the vote. Council, if it's working, please cast your vote electronically. It's not working. Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson. Brown.
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes.
Delgadillo.
Yes.
Henkel.
Yes.
Lim.
No.
Mackenzie.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Twist.
Yes.
Ward.
No.
All right, thank you. That passes 7-3, old school. Moving on. Did we do the borough? Oh, we're doing that now. Okay, sorry. The tech issues are making me a little anxious because I have no Wi-Fi. So next is borough's consideration, a proposed resolution number 2026-52-UR. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Proposed resolution number 2026-52-UR approving the Palisade Park filing number 1 urban renewal site plan amendment to a monument sign.
Thank you. Will the clerk please, oh, you did that. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Henkel?
So moved.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen, second. Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, borough members, please cast your, okay, we're going to do a roll call vote. For borough, you need to add borough member Goldstein. Will the clerk please call the roll for borough?
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes.
Delgadillo.
Yes.
Henkel.
Yes.
Lim. Mackenzie.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Twist.
Yes.
Ward.
No.
Goldstein.
Yes.
And Anderson.
No.
All right, that passes 8-3. Congratulations. The sign can move forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Baum.
Thank you very much, Council, and I'd like to thank everyone, and I appreciate all of the concerns of the people that voted against it, and I will tell you that I think history will prove itself that we'll honor the concerns that you have and work to make sure that someday in the future, I'd love it if you and it ends up working out great and your concerns are alleviated, that you can say it worked. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Next, under action items this evening is a resolution authorizing and approving the First Amendment to the City and County of Broomfield budget for the year 2026. We'll consider also cite item 7E is the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority's consideration of the resolution authorizing and approving the First Amendment to the borough budget for 2026. We'll consider both items at this time. Council and borough members have a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor, and we appreciate that. Tonight, we are bringing forward the First Amendment of the 2026 adopted budget. And as typical with our first budget amendment of the year, for those council members that have been on council for an extended period of time, you will remember the days of 26 budget amendments throughout the year. And the ability to, or inability rather, to track the cumulative effect of those budgets. We have now effectively operationalized 3 to 4 budget amendments a year. This one is specifically designed to take what we do know now, what we thought was going to happen in October. We have shored up those numbers through February. And so you'll see tonight the police step plan and why that was not included in the 2025 budget. Mayor Pro Tem has asked for some additional information on why that was not included. Our police step plan is separate from our general employees. So part of the discussion when we're going through and balancing the budget, to varying degrees on public safety being of primary concern when we're talking about critical mandated, not obligated functions and funds. So suffices to say, when we're talking about the police step plan, when we were in the mode of trying to balance the budget, when we're looking at the decrease for property tax, and when we discovered the outcome of the property tax, we were halfway through the year. So having to balance that budget by the end of the year required additional staff implications and impacts. When we understand what those step plans are, it was subsequent to October. That's why you're seeing it in the budget now. As we move into 2027, anytime that we make decisions, it's priorities. Council's talking a lot about what those trade-offs are. This was one of them. So to what degree does that balancing the budget for general employees impact or by design not impact our PD? The decision was made not to impact the PD. And those police step, not only does it keep it competitive, but a lot of surrounding communities that don't have built into code from an administrative perspective, they chase quotas, quite frankly. And so when it's based on merit. And so oftentimes merit is attached to outcome. It's attached to activity rather than indicating when we want to be the top three. And I apologize that we had ordinance in the council email, wasn't in the council memo, that creates an ongoing opportunity for Broomfield to have a culture with regards to PD, that we will remain in the top three. We're third, and that has been in place for the step plan since 1995. We've operated under those guidelines. Additionally, you'll see a decrease and Mr. Clark will talk a little bit about this with regards to fiber. There's a lot of conversations about build out and internet fiber and structuring. I know in my neighborhood, it's full of the lines that are from a multitude of different fiber companies coming in. They are subject to market infusions just as we are. So what they anticipate at the beginning of the year was full effort and full force integration into our community, each coming with various dollar amounts for per mile leasing and development and infrastructure. So that was it was significant, it was among all of them. So it wasn't reliant on one internet provider, but rather than it was the whole industry took a really significant step back to be able to say, we're going to rephase, we're going to look at the speed with which we enter into all communities. So Broomfield was not unique in having to adjust pretty significantly on the impact for broadband. And lastly, as council is aware, we were able to secure the bonds for the enterprise funds, and those amounts have also been included in the updated numbers. So those three categories will be discussed tonight. Mr. Clark is going to walk us through the general items. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, City Manager Hoffman. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, good evening. Graham Clark, Director of Finance. Tonight we have Budget Amendment 1, as City Manager Hoffman explained. Tonight, really what we're doing is we're realigning revenues and expenditures since the budget was last adopted in October. A lot can change over the course of 9 months, and the assumptions and projections we used last summer have shifted and impacting both the revenues and the expenditures. Tonight's amendment does several things, as City Manager Hoffman mentioned. First, it updates earlier projections with the most current information on revenues and expenditures. And this amendment brings estimates more in line with what we're seeing currently in the market. Second, the amendment carries forward funding for multi-year grants that span several fiscal years. And lastly, the amendment formalizes enterprise fund financing related to the water tanks and the wastewater expansion projects, which now the amounts are known. Next slide. So as I mentioned, grants and projects generally span multiple years, and we budget the entire amount in the first year of the activity. Therefore, any of the unspent funds need to be rolled over into the next year. And this is more just an administrative process, which we do each year. This year, we have around 200 projects that will be moving fiscal years from 2025 and those that didn't finish into the year 2026. Another thing to mention is during our internal review of the amendment and the preparation for this presentation, we also discussed the financial information and how it's presented. So some of the slides you'll see have some negative values in red, which sometimes that can create some confusion if it's not clear. In many of these cases, the values represent timing differences between revenues and projects, nothing of financial concern. Next slide. So tonight is not a financial reconciliation. The annual external audit will begin on April 6th, so coming up in a couple weeks. And those results are available to council in June. But rather, this amendment is a realignment based on the changes that we've seen since a budget was completed last October. The adjustments tonight do affect most funds, and it also includes the borough entity. Next slide. A bit of good news, 2025 final sales tax came in better than projected. So we are raising our 2026 sales tax revenue estimates. However, as City Manager Hoffman mentioned, the significant revenue that was projected in 2026 for leased fiber is quite a bit lower. And again, we anticipated private sector build-out timelines, which shifted at the end of 2025. And as a result, the budget team has revised those projections using a more conservative approach. And now we anticipate the fiber-related revenues coming over a few years coming up in the future. Again, last summer, each of these companies, more in the fall, summer, fall, this summer, many of these companies indicated to us that they were taking a more conservative approach to the build-out. And so we've shifted our plans on that one. One thing to mention is we do continue to pursue the fiber lease with the different participants that are out in the market. And essentially the decrease in the fiber and the sales tax increase essentially offset for 2026. Next slide. So changes to revenues, especially those in the general fund, which you can see here on the first line, affect the long-range financial plan, which we'll talk about more next week. That plan is designated to function as a flexible financial planning tool, and its purpose is to provide CCOB a way to adjust assumptions as new information becomes available, rather than solely relying on a static long-term plan. Updates that are provided here tonight are incorporated into the long-range financial plan, including changes in some of the development activity, which we'll talk about, some of the infrastructure project timing, and the revised revenues, which we just spoke on. Incorporating these adjustments helps ensure that the financial model used on the long-range financial plan begins with accurate information and is current as much as we can. This approach allows council to make policy decisions based on real and accurate financial conditions while still being able to adapt to any changes in data that comes in the coming months or years. Next slide. Here we have an example. As you can see, we've got a negative amount in red on the expenses for the Sales and Use Tax Capital Improvement Fund. This is an example of how some adjustments occur from October when we adopt the budget until more recent information as recent as the end of February. This adjustment involves the 10th Avenue and Birch project. That's the one on line 1 for the negative 600,000. This project was originally budgeted with the assumption that grant funding was going to be secured on this particular item. However, the grant was ultimately not awarded, which required staff to move the project back into the prioritized capital project plan list, where it can compete for funding in future capital planning cycles, which will be such as the upcoming one for the 2027 CIP, 5-year CIP. But this example illustrates how the amendment process allows us to adjust to assumptions as new information becomes available. Next slide. As we talked about, we issued the bonds in January, early January, and on the enterprise funds, we now have these known amounts for the water and sewer funds. We now will program these amounts into the 5-year CIP for the rates and the enterprise funds. One thing to note about the enterprise funds, recent updated development projections indicate a reduction in enterprise fund development fee revenue. This was just as early as last week. Development activity plays an enormous role in enterprise fund revenues. And so now as we begin the 2027 budget development cycle, especially on the enterprise fund, we'll be adjusting the capital project amounts that are available to be more aligned with the news that we've recently gotten from developers regarding some of these development. For the water fund, projections have shifted from approximately about 9 million is what we have in the budget for 2026, down to about 6 million. These are obviously estimates. And then on the stormwater fund, or on the sewer fund, projections have shifted from about 12 million to 9 million. So about a $3 million drop in each of those, which affects the available funds for the 5-year CIP. These changes were just identified, like I said, last week or in the last couple of weeks, and it was after the preparation for this amendment. And so it's not included in this amendment. It's more recent in nature, but we will have it on the next budget amendment, which will happen in October. Next slide. Here are a few borough projects that need additional funding. We've got a retaining wall repair and a State Highway 7 widening improvement project. These are the only two required adjustments for borough. Next slide. So looking ahead, we've got several milestones coming up in terms of the financial planning process. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. We'll have several chapters, financial chapters, as we head into the remainder of the year. The next one is scheduled next week, where we'll talk about the long-range financial plan in more detail with our city economist. And then the enterprise funds will have the quarterly update on April 15th. And that'll have updates, and we'll have a little bit more information on the development fees. Again, that's scheduled for April 15th. And then in May, we'll have a high-level look at the 2027 upcoming budget and the highlights within that. And then in June, we'll have the reconciliation on the financials according to the external audit that will start in a couple of weeks. So those are just some highlights coming up. And then, of course, we've got more budget items towards the fall. And so that is the details within Budget Amendment 1. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to speak on this item, please make your way to the podium. Seeing none, we'll go to questions from council and Borough next. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion. The time to introduce amendments and state positions for or against this item is later. Are there any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Lim. My peripheral vision works.
Technology is not working. It's banging on it, it's not doing anything. Considering that we did have public comment earlier about keeping people abreast of Broomfield Town Square news, and I'll continually have that question. Could you explain to the public why Broomfield Borough is saddled with the cost of repairing the retaining wall? Could you explain the public-private partnership and who's responsible for what on a high level?
So we have not conveyed the land to Broomfield Town Square. The land right now is about 39 acres. So it's from 120th where Safeway is all the way back to just where the sidewalk is. So all that entire greenery over there is Broomfield's. And as the process moves forward, we will then hand over various parcels. Until that time, it's much like Mayor Pro Tem, the roof on the Safeway building that we've, and the remediation to make sure there's no mold and to make sure that it's reinforced. And council will remember conversations regarding the retaining wall and also continuing to contribute to the Safeway building until such a time that the developer is ready to receive that land and building. So it will continue to be our responsibility. Mayor Pro Tem, much like the infrastructure on the underpass, First Avenue, and the preparation for the additional infrastructure once we do hand that over.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for the additional information about the police step plan. I'm not clear what our future obligation is. So how, you said that you will be incorporating the discussion of what needs to be budgeted for this earlier in the conversation this year for the 27 budget is what I understand. Is this, when we put this in our buckets, is this a mandate? Is this an obligation? Is this critical? And so how does staff view this as, could staff ever imagine a situation where the budget was so tight that we would not move forward with this step plan as it's laid out?
If you were to ask me that, Mayor Pro Tem, a year ago, the answer would be, could we ever foresee a time where that would be under discussion? And the answer is yes. As we move forward, again, with the prioritization of public safety being one of the primary prioritizations, that would be a conversation that when council approaches the budget through the multitude of chapters that we have based on the revenue that we have, that's where council would be able to say at the budget passage, to be reevaluating or not moving in the direction of the recommended budget. So council will always have the ability to scrutinize the market, the merit, and how we move forward with not only PD, but with the employees in general, and or any additional modifications, not only to employees, but any of the programs and projects. So and I'm not being coy with trying to figure out a diplomatic way to say this. But if we are looking at modifying the step plan for our PD, the budget would have to be to the place of, we'd have much bigger issues than discussing the step plan for the PD. If it came to that to balance our budget.
Okay, well, so then it's in that critical. So when we were constantly talking about
Yes.
mandates, obligations, and critical pieces. So it's in that critical section, but it's the top of the critical section.
Correct.
From your perspective.
Yes.
Okay, that gives me a little better picture of what's going into the 27 budget going forward then. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to continue along the line of questioning that Mayor Pro Tem Lim just had with the step plan for the PD. I guess my first question, since what currently is in the expense line is $1,857,204, how is that being distributed amongst our 200 some odd sworn and civilian employees of the police department?
The step plan is only for sworn officers.
Okay.
So any non-civilians, admins, they're in our general FTE pool. So it's based on tenure. So the PD has, I wouldn't say that it's complex, but they have a multitude of other, they have the step plan, they have regular pay, they have the pensions, they have FPPA, they have a whole host of other financial accoutrements, if you will, that make their whole package. So it's a very separate process than it is for our general FTE.
Okay. My next question is, as it relates to us being a market leader for all of our employees, but the police department in this particular case, do we have any peer agencies in the metro area that are ahead of us? And if there aren't any, who is the next closest and what is that delta that exists between us and the next closest?
I'm gonna look at my cheat sheet.
Great.
So we are number 3. So we compare ourselves with Arvada, Aurora, Boulder, Commerce City, Denver, Fort Collins, Lakewood, Longmont, Thornton, and Westminster. We also look at Adams County, Arapahoe, Boulder, Douglas, and Jefferson County, of course, because we're a city and county. And that also adds, Councilmember Warden, thanks for the opportunity to add this, the complexity to the multitude of activities that our PD has to do. So we with the shared, having the detention center along with the standardized city services from a police department, and being able to I don't want to say cross-pollinate, but have the opportunity for some of the detention officers to then become police officers, and some of the police officers that then, from a patrol perspective, want to go into detention.
Diversification.
Some diversification, and it's a very different,
Mindset.
very different. And so that's why we look at the cities and the counties. And it vacillates between the number 1 and number 3. You're not consistently number 3 or number 1 because we don't have a union in Broomfield. And that having that code to be committed to consistently being one of the top 3 allows us, along with the leadership in our PD, to set such a dynamic culture. A lot of the other communities, all of them surrounding us, quite frankly, they have police unions. And so depending upon those contract negotiations and the timing of those contract negotiations, we would go from, I don't think we've ever been number 1, but we try to stay around number 2 and number 3. The Delta isn't, it's not something that we've had to scratch our heads over to say, oh my God, this is such a huge leap from one year to the next. It's generally that delta is quite small, and generally you're able to make it up for it, not in compensation necessarily, but with the benefits and travel and training.
Okay, thank you. I think those are all the questions I have right now. I'll save comments for later.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So one of the questions that I frequently get is about fiber, and particularly how soon it's coming to certain neighborhoods, as our residents are waiting on the edge of their seats for it, I think, as I understand. I'm curious if, since we have the demand and obviously the revenue is great for the city, is there anything more that we can be doing to attract them or encourage our fiber companies to move more quickly with the proceeding with fiber build out?
No, I don't think so at this moment. A lot of it is really just up to their own timing on how quickly they can get their work crews out there and how quickly they can get through large, areas. But right now, I think we're mostly just waiting on them. Everything has passed, and they've got the ability to do everything that they need to. In fact, there's several of them we're talking to. I think we've talked to 4 or 5 now. They're just kind of at their own speed right now. And I think really what they're doing right now is trying to design what areas of town they're going to go to. They don't want to duplicate where another one's going to go to, right? So I think they're all kind of in this competitive feeling market that they're trying to figure out what's the most advantageous place to start. But I think you'll see it here pretty soon. Like I said, we've been talking to 4 or 5 different companies pretty consistently, and they're all pretty much gung ho. I think it's just their planning and design phase right now.
So I guess a follow-up question, given that we have 7, I think, master services agreements in place with fiber companies right now, would there be any advantage to us starting to use that termination clause in the agreement to say, if you don't take action within 2 years, that we can revoke this? Like, is there a way that we can encourage them to move on it? Because I noticed that August is the first timeline for when we would be able to take such an action.
I'll take that one, Mr. Clark. We've had this conversation, Councilmember Brown, and to the degree that incentivizing them that you'll have to start the process all over is not the same level of incentivizing as it is for a developer to save funds, because their ability to jump through those hoops, we were so quick, and quite frankly, we'll continue to be that swift. So jumping through the hoop is not the same level of jumping through the development hoops. So it's really, and we found this over 2025, that it fundamentally is market driven. And it really is, they don't have enough from a staffing perspective to have all of this happen in a multitude of communities. So they really go community to community. So it's kind of that hurry up and wait. They get everything done, and then that goes into their performa of where are we and under what circumstances. And tariffs play a role in it. You'll hear from Mr. Rutt in a bit that that tangible connection between infrastructure and pieces, it's more expensive now than it was a year ago. And so they're also subject to market influx in addition to their staffing.
Okay, I really appreciate you both speaking to that. And anything that we can do to move it quicker, I know that our residents would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions from council? Councilmember, first round, any other first round questions? Nope. Now you, Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. While Councilmember Braun was asking some questions, I had some thoughts or questions jump into my head related to fiber. The fiber revenue, is that one-time fee revenue from the companies, or is this supposed to be kind of ongoing revenue?
Both, but they're not equal, Councilmember Ward. So you'll have a big punch up front, and then the residuals will be significantly smaller. So we're planning on it being one-time dollars. And you don't want to build programs based on those one-time dollars.
Okay. Is the 5.5 million that's listed in the proposed amendment right now, is that just the one-time fee revenue so far for the application and whatnot, or does that also include some of that ongoing revenue that we are going to be expecting in the future?
Both.
Okay. And then I guess the next question I have is that revenue, particularly the one-time fee, and just, I guess, for clarification for everyone, what is that one-time fee that they pay?
So great questions. And so given this was kind of our first foray into the internet and the broadband, we were really thinking that we were going to deploy our negotiation team. And turns out that it's much less. It's not really a negotiation. I mean, it's a pretty set fee for per mile, per strand, per household, kind of that last, we call it last mile in transportation. So it's really that last little modicum from the sidewalk to the house. So it's all very prescribed, and it's based on volume. So there's not a lot of negotiation going on.
Okay. Is that one-time revenue, like what is that one-time revenue paying for on our end? Is it just helping defray some of the costs with administering?
It does, Councilmember Ward, from the perspective of, it's probably one of the only services that we will make more than we spend. So when we talk about permitting and having staff reimbursed, oftentimes it just won't cover it. You'll get about 80 cents on the dollar. And on this one, the only real headache is when they cut a line or they disturb the neighborhoods that have been wanting fiber for a long time. Then we'll get a call and we'll say, well, you didn't say it was this disturbing. So again, it's more disruption, and particularly when you have more than one provider that's out trying to get as much done as they possibly can. So again, it's less about cost reimbursement, and it's more about what they standardize, what they will pay when they go into a community per foot, per mile.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Henkel. Oh,
To another.
oh. Did you raise your hand, Councilmember Cohen? Okay, never mind. Then are there any other questions from council? It's like bizarro day. All right then, seeing no further questions, first is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-33. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-33, authorizing and approving the First Amendment to the City and County of Broomfield budget for the year 2026.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Henkel?
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Delgadillo?
And
Thank you. Is there any discussion? That's Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I want to say about this is, as it relates to the step plan and kind of just PD in general, I want to say there are a multitude of factors that contribute to public safety and what makes a community safe. It is not just PD, and I want to be very cognizant of that. And so I think going forward as budget seasons are going to be a little tight probably for the next couple of years, I think we really do need to scrutinize who is getting what in the departments, because I think there are plenty of other departments where we could make arguments that they are just as important to public safety who are not receiving a benefit like the STEP plan, for example, and are going without certain increases. And so I just want us to be very cognizant of both of those points as we go forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, council, please cast your vote. No, are we back to electronic? Okay, let's try to cast your vote electronically. Looking good, right?
Yep.
Everybody's cast their vote and the results will be displayed. That passes unanimously. Thank you, team, for fixing that screen. All right. So next is Borough's consideration of item 7E, proposed resolution number 2026-34-UR. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-34-UR, authorizing and approving the First Amendment to the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority budget for the year 2026.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Henkel?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Ward?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Borough, please cast your vote electronically. Authority Member Goldstein, please state your vote verbally.
Aye.
Thank you. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That also passes unanimously 11-0. Thank you all so much. We're going to take our 10-minute recess now. It's about 8:15. We'll be back at 8:25. Thank you.
Will you just put that in there?
From break, y'all.
Okay, that's fair.
So next, under action items this evening are 4 resolutions related to Broomfield Water Recovery Late Work Package with Moltz Construction and Carollo Engineers agreements. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. And we're rounding third coming into home base as Ken Rutt makes his way down. Not sliding into the podium, but Mr. Rutt.
Good evening. Welcome back from your break. I'm Ken Rutt, Director of Water Utilities, Mayor Pro Tem, Manager Hoffman. It is always a pleasure to come before you and talk about, our water and wastewater services that we provide our community. And tonight we're going to talk first about our water recovery, which is our wastewater treatment facility, and the next step, which is our late package for our construction work related to the phase 1 work. Next slide. So just for a lot for, since we have several new members on council, the original treatment plant was built in 1954 on the original site that we can continuously use. Back then, the capacity was about 8 million gallons per day, and currently we are at 12 million gallons per day capacity. And we're also at 23,108 pounds of organic loading. So when the state evaluates wastewater discharge permits, they provide 2 different capacity ratings. One is your hydraulic flow, which is the 12 million gallons per day. And then the other one is what they call organic loading, which is the solids part of the wastewater, mostly anything that breaks down organically. And that is currently at 23,108. So those are the 2 permit requirements that we have to maintain and to achieve. And so one of our responsibilities is that under our permit, we are responsible to ensure that we have proper wastewater collection systems and also wastewater treatment facilities. And that includes the ability for us to pay for design work, for construction work, how we operate and maintain our wastewater collection and treatment facilities. It also requires us to ensure adequate financing of these operations through significant revenue generation. Next slide. So in 2023, we went through a wastewater utility master plan, and the initial plan was for 13 years of capital improvements to bring our wastewater treatment facility up to the current regulatory requirements, accomplish some asset renewal, enhance our biosolids operation, a little bit of capacity, and then some for reuse. So on the slide here, you see that the regulatory requirements account for 39% of the need for the wastewater treatment facility. And then you see asset renewal, 20%, as the facility is getting older. And then with the organic loading, we need to enhance our biosolids operations, which accounts for 18%. The capacity then obviously is 17%, and then reuse is our 6%. And so each one of these are planned through different phases. We had originally designed in the master plan 5 different phases that would occur over the 13 years. Next slide. And so the design for the phase 1 obviously has been completed. We've gotten the site application for construction approval with all wastewater processes and treatment, whether it's collection, lift stations, or wastewater treatment facilities. You have to get approval from the state health department prior to entering any construction activities. And so we have received that approvals. And so the phase 1 that's currently under construction with the early work is what we call the flow equalization basin, which is critical to provide us with a storage location within the treatment plant to meet reuse obligation. Because as wastewater travels throughout the day, there's like two different bell curves that happen. And so from about 5 a.m. until roughly around 9 to 10, there's a pretty big increase in flow. And then it kind of levels off for a little bit. And then there is another huge increase between about 5 p.m. until about midnight. And then after about 2 a.m., our current flow is roughly about 6.5 million gallons per day. And between about 2 a.m. to about 6 a.m., it drops down to around 1 million gallons. And so you have this big fluctuation throughout the day. And to properly operate and control the footprint of our wastewater plant and to improve efficiencies, what you try to do is provide a continuous flow through the treatment plant so that your microorganisms, because everything in the wastewater facility is pretty much microorganism driven, and so you want to continuously feed those organisms a consistent, what we call food, which is the waste, for them to survive and to multiply accordingly. Everybody has their own tastes. So that's what the flow equalization does. It also provides us opportunity to provide a constant reuse flow throughout the 24 hours. Otherwise, when peak reuse flow is happening between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., that wastewater flow would drop to 1 million gallons and we would not be able to meet the demand on the reuse. So that flow equalization allows us to help meet those demands overnight. And the second thing we did on the flow equalization is on the bottom, on that little circle graphic of the plant, the bottom where there's that little racetrack looking photo piece, that is the current flow EQ base, and it is not covered. So all of the odors and stuff are dispersed into the air. The new one will be covered as part of our enhanced odor control system. And then we're also adding what we call a primary clarifier, which basically is a large basin to allow gravity to work. And so wastewater treatment, again, is really about gravity and biology. And so primary clarification is part of the gravity piece. It allows the heavy organics to settle where we can remove them to the biosolids operations. And then we were going through some of the aeration blower optimization, which is one of our highest energy using treatment pieces, which is required to provide the oxygen for the microorganisms to live and do their job. Next slide. So the early work package was approved in July, and most construction has been working throughout since July, 1st of August, to begin working on the early work package and procuring long lead equipment. So a lot of the long lead equipment is related to electronics. So variable frequency drives, which helps us save some energy and some efficiencies, and of the electrical equipment, and also generators. This allowed us to start the work prior to when we were able to get the bond funding, which was secured in January 2026. So this late package that we are bringing to you tonight is all included within the bond funding process. So we also, not only are we asking for the construction, presenting the late package for the construction, we are also proposing the late engineering service agreements for their packages as the engineers provide on-site inspections and administration of the construction process. Next slide. I just wanted to show you what they've done. We talked about the flow equalization. The top picture is what it looked like in July. And the bottom picture is what it looked like about a couple of weeks ago. And so you could see that they have made significant progress in building our flow equalization basin. Next slide. There we go. And we talked about a little bit about the primary clarifier. The top photo shows you the grass area where it was. The bottom shows you the construction site in building that primary clarifier. So as you can see through the photos, the early work package is well on its way, and the contractor is making significant progress. So for those who like to geek out on construction, this is good stuff. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the bond funding, part of the early package was designed around when we were going to get the bond funding. The bond funding was completed in January 2026. And we are now prepared to bring, to move forward with the two pieces, which is also the timeline for the Phase 1B design and construction. The early package for Phase 1B design allowed us to get to the 30% design. And we will achieve that in April. We'll meet the 30% design, and we need to move forward with the rest of that design effort. And so part of tonight's proposal is to provide funding for the engineering firm to finish up the design for 1B. The bonds do require us to spend 85% within the first 3 years of the construction project. And so timing of all of these issues are critical in order for us to achieve those goals. And let's see, next slide. So just a refresher that we did go through a competitive selection process for both the contractor and the engineers. And when we selected Moltz Construction, they were issued the contract, and that include multiple phases. So the first phase was the project work where they reviewed and worked with us through the design process to help ensure constructability and save some cost related to the design of the process. It also provides a guaranteed maximum price for the project. So step one was that part for for Moltz Construction, that part was $196,380. And now we are ready to move on forward for the late package, which is totals about $42,930,595. And that will complete the Phase 1 construction activities. The next slide. When we kicked off the project, we had a couple of different neighborhood meetings. The first one was on May 1st, 2025, and where we met with the residents in the area of the wastewater treatment facility and discussed the project and gave them tours of the facility to help them see what all wastewater treatment's about. So if you haven't been to the wastewater treatment plant, you have to wear your hard hat and steel-toe shoes now, but it is a fascinating world, and it's amazing how large the facilities are needed to treat the wastewater. We had a second meeting prior to construction, which was on August 6th on 2025, and we again met with the neighborhood and introduced them to the contractor, and we're able to discuss what the construction looked like, and the contractor was able to provide feedback to the residents to help them understand the project. And our next follow-up meeting with the neighborhood is scheduled for Thursday, March 12th. And we'll meet with them from 7:30 to 8:30 roughly, and that'll be at the wastewater facility. And so what we try to do is at least meet quarterly, if not, depending on how much construction is going on with the residents. So as we get into Phase 1B and there's a little more construction activity, we'll meet more regularly with the residents. The next slide. So tonight, the proposed resolution 2641 is for the construction agreement with Moltz Construction for a late package, work package to finish the construction of Phase 1. It also, resolution 202642 is for the consulting amendment for Carollo Engineering for construction services for the late work package. And the proposed resolution 202643 is for the final design services for the Phase 1B. And then we also have resolution 202644, which is for ground engineering, because we separate the soil and geotechnical engineering, and we operate that separately so that we have a double check of the soils. Instead of just letting the engineering firm do everything, it provides staff with a little more oversight of what the geotechnical can be. And next slide, I think that might be it. So that's the presentation for the water recovery facility. You bet.
Comments? If any residents are online and using the call-in service, please press *9 to raise your hand. I will start with in person. If anyone would like to be heard, please make your way to the podium.
Roxy Joelle Luckmore, what's the address of this location?
The wastewater treatment facility is, I've only worked there for 30 some years, see if I remember the address, 2985 West 124th Avenue. So just from Lowell and 124th, about a half a mile east.
Anybody else? We'll go to questions from council next. Colleagues, anyone have any questions? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of questions. So one thing I noticed that came up is this One Water evaluation. So could you speak a little bit more on that and why it's the right time to make that a big part of the contract? I did do a little Googling and research, so I know the basics, but if you could go over it a little bit more, that would be great.
Well, part of this, the engineering part included the One Water assistance through developing that. So the One Water process is, as you Googled and read it, is really a how do we transition from a silo approach of evaluating just the wastewater treatment plant and working within that silo, and then having water resources work within that silo. It is really the approach of working more closely with our partners. So working more closely with community development and understanding development growth and the speed of growth, and working with Flow Committee and keeping them updated with what are the challenges and the costs associated with the overall water system from start to finish. And then what does that look like from a rate structure? What does that look like from a cost structure? How do we improve efficiencies with those decision makings that may enhance our overall operational efficiencies? And that's part of what that One Water piece is designed to help bring all of those pieces under one umbrella. Yeah. So that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. That's really helpful. I didn't realize that it actually took into consideration kind of thinking about that future growth and other things. And that kind of answers the question of why is this the right time to do that? Because obviously we're experiencing growth and all that's going on. So thank you for that. And then just double checking. So we have a lot of deadlines to hit in those first 3 years when we need 85% of it done. Do we have certain very specific key milestones? What's the plan if something goes a little bit off track? How much of a buffer did we bake into that planning?
So fortunately for us, when we look at, and that's one of the parts of our solicitation for engineering firms and contractors, is there a couple things is we want high quality engineering, because the higher quality engineering, the less engineered change orders that happen during the construction process. The second piece is having high quality construction firms that are familiar with the specialty, and particularly in this case, familiar with Broomfield. And fortunately for us, we were able to achieve both goals. Most Construction was the contractor for our phase 2 expansion back in 2007. And so they were familiar with our site, and they have the financial and staffing ability to meet this timeline. And so they are staffing up in order to achieve these goals. We meet weekly with the engineering team, the plant team, and the design team, and the construction team, and with some of their key subs to ensure that we are staying on schedule.
That's great to hear. That weekly meeting and all that stuff sounds like we're in a good spot. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
When I looked at the memo and saw the funding sources, so there's no money that's getting pulled from the reuse fund, even though there is a reuse pump that would be important to that reuse fund. Is that based on limitation of how we issued the bonds? Is it based on limitations in funding in the reuse fund? How?
So basically, in the wastewater treatment facility, we are issued a discharge location. And so we have two discharge locations. We have the one for Big Dry Creek, which is our main source, which by the state is titled 001. And then we have Great Western Reservoir, which is still classified as waters of the state. So even though we're pumping water into the reuse system, it goes into Great Western, it is still considered part of the wastewater treatment because we have to meet all the requirements, whether we go to Big Dry Creek or Great Western, that water is still classified as wastewater treatment effluent. And so we do have to meet both ends. It just happens that is also part of our reuse system. And so we were able to double dip, I guess, on that treatment facility. So it does two purposes. It meets both our needs on the wastewater treatment facility as we discharge to Great Western Reservoir, and it also provides us additional reuse capacity at the same time.
So when we're looking at, now that we focus so much on the bottom lines of these three funds, then we're actually in some way subsidizing the reuse water by providing wastewater treatment that that I understand you're describing, we have to do anyway. So, but I'm just thinking of.
In a way of looking at it, I suppose you can interpret it that way a little bit. Would we have to discharge to Great Western if we didn't have a resource? No, we would not. But because we do discharge to Great Western Reservoir and it is a state classified water body, that's why it's covered under the wastewater treatment or under the sewer fund, is because it is a permitted location through the treatment plant and not technically a permitted location through the reuse system.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions from council? Councilmember Peterson.
Like what, your assumption for how many residents you'll need to accommodate when these plans are done?
When all of the phases are completed, we will have the capacity to about 125,000 people. It's hard to predict some of the capacity because really what we're looking at is more of the organic loading.
Sure.
With water conservation efforts, particularly around indoor use, such as low flow toilets, shower head reductions and those type of things. What we have found over the last 10 years is the strength of the wastewater has increased from an engineering term of what was generally designed around 0.16 to 0.17 pounds per person is now around 0.23 to 0.24 pounds per person. So a significant increase in the loading percent per person. So what we're really looking at, the capacity from a hydraulic loading, we're not looking at increasing that much, maybe to 14 million is our current plan, but the organic loading will need to increase about 33%. And so roughly about 32,000 pounds.
Any more questions, council member? All right, thank you. Is that all for questions? All right, then, first is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-41. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-41, authorizing and approving the Guaranteed Maximum Price Amendment 2 to the construction agreement with Moltz Construction, Inc. for the Water Recovery Facility Phase 1 Improvements Late Work Package.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Henkel.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 10-0. Thank you, Mr. Rutt and team. Don't go anywhere though, right?
Yep.
Next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-42. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-42, authorizing and approving the consulting agreement with Carollo Engineering Company, Inc. for engineering services during construction for the Water Recovery Facility Phase 1 Late Work Package.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Peterson. You got it. Is there a second? Councilmember Ward.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members, almost. Yours working, you got it? Hinkle's a yes, right? Yeah, good. Okay, all council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously too. Thank you. And next is council's consideration to propose resolution number 2026-43. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-43, authorizing and approving the consulting agreement with Carollo Engineering Company, Inc. for engineering design services for the Water Recovery Facility Phase 1B Final Design.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Delgadillo.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Brown.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? And council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously. Next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-44. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-44, authorizing and approving an amendment to the agreement with Ground Engineering Consultants, Inc. for geotechnical engineering and testing services for the Water Recovery Facility Phase 1 project.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Delgadillo.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Henkel.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously too. So thank you very much. The final item under action items this evening are 3 resolutions related to the Broomfield Water Tanks Late Work Package construction and engineering agreements. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Mr. Rutt? Part 2.
Part 2, again, Ken Rutt, Director of Water Utilities, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, Manager Hoffman. Again, it's this time we won't talk wastewater, we'll just talk water. And glad to be here to present this topic. I also wanted to recognize, and I failed to do so earlier, is members of our Flow Committee is also here tonight.
Here.
So we have 3 members there, and we appreciate all of the partnership that we have with our Flow team. They ask a lot of questions.
Good.
So going on, I'm here tonight to present the North Area water tanks. And again, like the first one with the wastewater facility, this is part of our bond proceeds that we issued in January. And so we're looking at a late work package for our construction company, which is Garney Construction, one of the largest water tank contractors in the United States. And the engineering services for during construction and our geotech engineering material, again, similar to the wastewater. Next slide. Again, I'll go over a little bit of background for some of our newer members of council and maybe some of our newer residents that are tuning in. These water tanks in the North Area water tanks were a longstanding and crucial need for our eastern part of our community, which is basically we have two water zones, which is really the east side, which is Main Street to the east and Main Street to the west. So we have a west and east service zones. And so these tanks are critical for the east service zone. And so the site identification was finalized. It was part of the Anthem 24 development, and it was finalized in 2016. That set aside the land space from which these tanks are built on. We had our water modeling company, our engineering firm, which is a separate engineering firm from the design firm. Again, a check and balance on what is needed. And so the modeling engineering firm confirmed through our water modeling that these tanks were indeed needed for this service area. Staff presented a comprehensive overview of the water resources to council during the study session back in October of 2022. And then in July 24th on 2024, the site development plan amendments for the partially buried tanks were presented. Next slide. And so the project consists of two 3 million gallon water tanks. It is designed to improve our water quality in the eastern service zone and help ensure pressure fluctuations in the distribution system are maintained, and that it also provides additional reserves for firefighting, which seems to be critical this winter anyways, that these reserves are available. And so upon completion, these potable water storage will increase 6 million gallons. And so we'll have a total of 12 million gallons for the east side of their service center. Next slide. So this is just an overview of the area where the North Area water tanks are being constructed. You can see basically kind of a oval looking shape where the water tanks are being located. And that is our construction location. Next slide. And so the early package was funded in the 2025 budget, which allowed us, again, similar to the water recovery facility, to begin purchasing some long lead equipment, the same type of equipment that's just a different function, but basically both water and wastewater use similar equipment, variable frequency drives, some of our pumps, electrical equipment, and generators. That allowed us to begin construction, and which started in the 1st of January, and then the bonds were issued in January 2026 to complete the funding of this project. The late work package will provide the funding necessary for Garney Construction to finish purchasing all the equipment and to complete the project. It also provides the late work package also for Burns and McDonnell is to support from the engineering during construction of these tanks and pump station and the site improvements, including our post-construction activities. Next slide. So just so you can see, this was taking, I think, last week. So Garney Construction has begun the grading part in the kind of, where I'm looking at it, my right and to the west. So kind of the northwest section of that property. You can kind of see the oval. That is where the tank location is at. Where you see the graders and the other mounded dirt, that is just really our dirt storage at this point in time. And that dirt will either be used back in the project or will be hauled off site. Next slide. So initially we sent out postcards in late November to the surrounding residents within 1,000 feet of the project, both to the north, east, and south. A neighborhood meeting was held on December 10th at 6 p.m. at the municipal shops. And we had an opportunity to meet with several of the residents during that period of time. We have a project website that's titled, you can search for North Area Tanks or directly at broomfield.org and /3571. That'll take you to that particular site. We have met a couple of times, what we call the coffee and donut sessions. And on February 5th, 2026, we had one at 7:30 a.m. And then the second session was held on March 5th, last week at 4:30 on the site where the construction trailers were. And so what we're trying to do is rotate between mornings and afternoon to provide the residents with different opportunities based on their schedule, which one they can meet. And we've been holding them monthly, and we'll hold them monthly with the residents because the site is quite close to the residents. In fact, I think we had a couple of our flow members and a couple council members at the last one. So we appreciate the support and for you guys attending. Next slide. So the resolutions tonight before you, 2026-45 is for the engineering services with Burns and McDonald. That is $1,850,385. And then resolution 2026-46 is in the amount of $52,352,477 for the construction agreement with Garney Construction for the late work of this package. And then the proposed resolution 2026-47 in the amount of $300,000 is for the agreement with Ground Engineering for the geotechnical and material testing. Just slipped my mind. Again, this work is to be completed within 3 years, and that is the construction timeframe. We think it'll be completed between 30 months and 36 months. That's my presentation tonight.
Well, thank you very much again, Mr. Rutt. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to be heard on this item, please make your way to the podium. Seeing none, we'll move on to questions from council next. Do any council members have any questions? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple again. One thing that I found interesting is this is Amendment 3 for the GMP, the amendment with Garney. What happened to Amendments 1 and 2? Just out of curiosity, how did we get to 3?
We had to extend the pre-construction because based on council's direction, we had to redesign for a possible buried tank. And so we had to give them amendment number 1 and 2.
So that was because of our rigmarole.
Yep.
Thank you. You said that very diplomatically, Mr. Rutt. I appreciate that. And then the second one is, and this is coming from, of course, a non-expert, the Burns and McDowell scope. They have a field engineer on site for 3 days per week for a very large and complex, or at least what seems to me to be a complex project. Is that standard? Is that okay? Is that what we'd expect? Are we comfortable with that?
Yeah, we're comfortable with that. And that'll vary somewhat depending on what's happening in the week, but that's the average amount of time the inspector will be there. There'll be some weeks where he's maybe there a little bit more, or she in this case, or it may be a little bit less depending on what construction activities are going on. Our project management, Rondi Jo Ackerman is overseeing the project also, so she's there on a daily basis, ensuring that they are following all of our standards and specs and to the design.
Okay, well, that sounds great. Thank you for answering those questions. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you for this presentation, and I want to say a sincere thank you for these ongoing monthly meetings for the residents. They have been helpful, and we did notice that I think there's been now there's not the postcard going out. We kind of have a plan to get that up on the Anthem Facebook page so that residents will be able to see it. There was I think there would have been a few more people there if they would have had that on their radar. one of the topics that will continue to come up, because I will bring it up or somebody else will be that trail. And so there's so much of the content in these questions that can be answered by the group that's there, but the trail will always be deferred back to the open space and trails to put that in for its final location when the time comes. And I'm just like curious, there's like this critical moment when, I mean, from the construction side of things, there's a ton of dirt and they can build that up as high as desired, but it's not their purview. And so I'm just curious when does that, this might be I'm not sure this is a question for, but kind of like getting that out on the radar so that in a year or two or whenever the appropriate time is that we're making this coordinated decision before the dirt disappears, before the trail height is established, and just making sure that that is being coordinated. And from the standpoint, there are multiple residents who would love to have a meeting as it gets closer to that time to also have some say in it. Because the whole thing, there's not a whole lot to preserve there because it is all removed, and height and that visibility in the 360 degrees and getting the bench back up there and the stones as they were is kind of what they're looking for. And just want to make sure that we're coordinating that piece in here. Oh, and then here's my question as it relates to the budget. Is that budgeted within the scope of this work, or is that like a open space and trails budget piece for like the putting back the dirt, any retaining wall that might need to be built? Just curious, like how that's all going to work.
I think the rebuild of the trail is within the scope of work. And to answer kind of the other part is that we will be, it is after the meeting and feedback we got the other day, we are going to, I'll be reaching out to our open space and trails director and invite her to the next monthly meeting so she can more directly address some of the open space, and hopefully she has the schedule to fit on that one. If not, we will schedule a different meeting to allow the residents to express some of that, because we are about a year to where we need to meet with the Open Space and Trails Committee and get close to what do they want to see and what does that design look like, so we can begin to design with them and to ensure whatever that outcome looks like, however high they want that we can do it safely and we can meet those needs.
That's very, very helpful. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, first is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-45. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-45, authorizing and approving the amendment to the consulting agreement with Burns and McDonnell Engineering, Inc. for engineering services during construction during the late work package for the Broomfield Tanks project.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Ward.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, council, please cast your vote electronically. Councilmember Henkel has left, so you might want to mark her out. And all council members have entered their vote. The results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 9-0. Next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-46. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-46, authorizing and approving the Guaranteed Maximum Price Amendment 3 to the construction agreement with Garney Construction, Inc. for the Broomfield Tanks project late work package.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Ward.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? And then council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed. That passes unanimously 9-0. Next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-47. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-47, authorizing and approving a consulting agreement with Ground Engineering, Inc. for geotechnical and material testing services for the Broomfield Tanks project.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Delgadillo.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Ward.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That also passes unanimously. Thank you so much, water team. We got it underway. There are no mayor or council member requests for future action this evening. Is there any other business to come before the council from my colleagues or staff?